This morning, the Dems did the only thing they were ever going to do. They chose to continue the leadership of Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the House. She has secured the nomination to lead the Dems amid their narrow majority. Now, it is not finalized. Pelosi is currently running unopposed and only needed a simple majority of the Democratic Caucus during the secret ballot vote, but she'll still have to clinch 218 votes on the House floor in January to officially become Speaker. And she has a much narrower majority to work with this time around after Democrats lost more than half a dozen seats on election day. So wait, hold on, that last sentence, that's what the article says. Let me add a little bit of context. She has a much narrower majority to work with this time around after years of her leadership. She is one of the most powerful Democrats. She weighed in on tons of races. She got involved in choosing people in primaries that could have run differently, might have run different campaigns around different pieces of legislation if they had been led differently by her. So I'm really not gonna have that much sympathy for her new narrower majority, in no small part produced by her complete lack of leadership. JR, what do you think? You surprised?
Okay, I'm not surprised, but this is what frustrates me because this is, I think, part of why it happens. I've never been big on like media critique or certain articles critique. You know, a lot of folks that talk about politics, we do that from both sides of the aisle. When it's frustrating the way someone writes something because it becomes common knowledge. So there's an article in the Hill that talked about this, and when I read it this morning, it was frustrating because it was a voice vote because there's concerns about health and safety and COVID, right? So the voice vote, the voice vote, people just yell loud enough to be like, okay, the ayes have it, and that's one of the ways we do things still ridiculously. So
weird.
Yeah, they go, the ayes or nays? Aye, and people can yell loud enough, and therefore, okay, I heard Tim in the back. That's great. Okay, so because of that kind of vote, because previous to this, we know that some progressives were challenging Pelosi's leadership positions, and that was a big deal. And they said there's an erosion of defectors, and this reflects the support that she's earned since some previous issues. Does it? Does it really show that? Because in that same paragraph, it says there's losses Democrats suffered at the polls earlier this month. They also suffered some losses in the House. So what about these losses have anything to do with her earning more support from previous defectors? I don't get that. But again, it's written in a sense, if you're just reading straight through it and you don't follow this as closely, you would think, oh yeah, previously there were some people that were against Pelosi within the Democratic Party, and now they've all switched and they're all kumbaya, they're all together, and they love everything she's doing. That's not the case. But they're telling everybody that's the case, so that therefore going forward, probably she'll continue to run unopposed, and she'll continue to lead the party in the House. But it's not like a across the board unanimous decision that everyone loves Nancy Pelosi now. But common knowledge is now saying everyone loves Nancy Pelosi. She's done an excellent job, and any problems that she had before are completely gone, and no one is upset with her. They love her. That's what people are gonna think, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure there are many Dems who are probably more moderate, and I would argue probably don't pay that much attention to politics and don't necessarily have as much at stake for themselves for the future, that probably really still like Nancy Pelosi. She's been around for a long time, and she has at least two major skills. One is that she is very good at raising money in the traditional way that Democrats do, with all of the strings attached that brings, which I would argue is why the majority is narrowing. And the other thing is, every 3.5 months, she does something to tweak Donald Trump, and some people like that. Beyond that, though, like remember 2 years ago when they chose her again that time, and there wasn't much of a challenge. And if you even brought up the possibility that we have a conversation about who the leader should be, just a conversation, that was considered anathema to American politics. So then we had 2 years of her, and what happened? Okay, she impeached him. That's something. I would argue that was not nearly as difficult to do as they made it out to be, considering they had the majority and they could do it basically anytime they want to. One of the big things they ran on in 2018 was getting the taxes. We never ended up getting that. It took the New York Times getting a portion of it like a month before the election. That was the closest we came. In terms of COVID relief, we got that one bill that was incredibly slanted towards producing like additional, illusory profits for corporations. And then beyond that, what? All of his scandals, the situation with Iran, the lack of interest in dealing with the pandemic, was she capable of producing the biggest toll for him as possible? If they're not gonna fix those problems, he was at least stick it to him, and she was not. And I understand that she and some of her defenders might say, well, what more was she supposed to do? And I would answer that by saying, I don't know, but I'm not the speaker. She was after decades of experience. We can debate how difficult it might have been to get the job done, but she didn't get the job done. So could we have a conversation, just a brief conversation about some other paths we could take? Maybe one of the over 200 other Democrats in the House right now would have done things a little bit differently. Maybe the American people should hear about those possibilities. We're about to launch into a new phase of American politics. It's going to be very difficult in different ways than the last one was. Why would we just assume that we're gonna have the exact same leadership? But that's what they did. We have Chuck Schumer, we have Nancy Pelosi. Something hypothetically could derail that, but between now and inauguration, all that, but it's probably not gonna happen. And who has faith that that is the leadership that's gonna get us through this difficult time, that's gonna counter Mitch McConnell, that's gonna set us up to not lose even more seats in the next midterms? It's not gonna work to produce effectively an electorate that's so frustrated by the lack of progress in addressing the economic problems and COVID and all of that, that you're not gonna have some other proto Donald Trump in office in 4 more years.
This plays the entire process. It plays the entire process in a certain way. Like the thought is that it's a possibility that she can be ousted, or that maybe there's someone that can oppose her. Maybe there's that this is a thing that she's getting renominated to be speaker again. But then in the same breath, we'll say that it's a done deal. So what are we talking about it being such an accomplishment for if no one's opposing her and no one's supposed to oppose her? Like it's either one or the other. Either someone's opposing her and there's some kind of challenge to her leadership, or no one is and everyone loves her. But the thing is, you can't play it both ways and say that, oh yeah, she should just be on board and there's nobody opposing her, but then also congratulate her for being unopposed. Like she's not doing anything. She's just going unopposed. So there's no accomplishment there, but they still give her that credit. It's kind of weird. I don't know. It's maybe I'm digging too deep or trying to find some odd layers that don't really exist. But you can't give credit to someone that hasn't done anything, especially if you're congratulating her for not having to do anything.
Yeah, it's
which one is it?
Just have a vote. Like it's just she obviously will be the person, and you don't get to challenge it. You don't get to even suggest that there should be a challenge. If you do, you'll be considered the most radical person.
Yeah, that's really what they're saying. And if you say anything different, then you're crazy. And then again, if people do say it, then
yeah. Well, look, the answer to this is the answer to virtually every question right now. Elect better Dems and get the hell out of there. You know what? Like and by the way, as Jenks said on Dr. Jenks' special last night, none of the awesome progressives in the House are challenging her, and I get it. It probably wouldn't work. But what if they had 25 extra Dems or 50 extra Dems? If they had 100 extra Dems that were good progressives, then maybe they could have. It is a very difficult task. It is a very difficult thing to accomplish. But it's basically our only path to getting the party that we need to get the country that we want. And so that would be my advice going forward.
And the only way to make that happen is enough people to vote down ballot. And it's a shame that down ballot
and to run
is, well, it also, to run, number one. And then once they are running, it's a shame that down ballot voting is Senate and House. That's down ballot. That's pretty important. Like we see that as, oh yeah, people vote for president every 4 years. When it comes outside of that, it's just kind of down ballot. You know what down ballot should be? It should be your like a council members or your props and stuff that are in your local communities and your state senators. That should be down ballot stuff. Instead, down ballot is senators. Okay,
yeah, they're arguably important, even if they're clowns for the most part. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.